Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Tech and Productions, and today I, Bancroft, being joined by both Jimmy and Fluff.
Howdy.
What up, people?
And today, we're telling a story of as old as time. A creator creates a character, that character lives on in people's memories, and then all of a sudden they're deleted from all time. Speaking of time, we also have Trunks here. So we have a game between Trunks and Launch, and that being said, Fluff, you are taking held Helm, whatever that term is called, I can't remember all of a sudden, of Trunks, while Jimmy pilots the Launch deck. So like always, there's buttons.
What the fuck is going on?
That was a really long, roundabout way, like the video, or Bancroft will do that again.
But, yeah, take it away.
Am I in a fever dream? Is this real?
I couldn't think of the correct word all of a sudden. Like, is it what? Helm? Yeah. Helm. Yeah.
Taking the helm.
What was the part about the character?
Oh, Launch. She was forgotten. Toriyama created her. Everyone loved her. Then she was gone for the rest of time. And then I went from time to Trunks because Trunks travels time. Look, don't make me explain this shit. If people figure it out, kudos. All right. If they don't, that's not my fault.
Okay, if you figured it out before Bancroft just explained it there, please tell us in the comments, and I know you're lying 100%, so don't even try. Nobody got that, except for Bancroft.
We all know the one dude who got it is Bancroft's burner account.
Well, look, my brain works differently than most people, so leave me alone. Why don't you go over your game, guys, and go over the decks, because Jimmy is using the tricolor Launch, while Fluff is playing set 10 Trunks with some spice.
I just want to say, tricolor Launch is really annoying for Trunks because it's like arrival, and everything in Trunks, like the removal is all bounced back to hand. So it pretty much neuters most of what my deck tries to do.
So Launch is really funky in the way it wants to play, in that you never really cast a card on your turn unless it's a Piccolo Jr. or one of your just one-drop weenies that you're throwing out to get a draw. So it makes your opponent play really weird, and especially if you play it the way I do with Launch, where I play all of my arrivals as more so as like pseudo negates. An example, like Chompavirus is a negate for a card with 20k or less power. Gogeta is a negate for a card with 4 or less. Hercule Boo and Cooler, obviously I can use those to neg out pretty much any card in the game. So that when you play like that, it really forces your opponent to play funky and in some cases screw up their lines of play because they don't know what you have in hand.
Yep.
And right here, this is my spice for the deck. I love this Janemba card. I always have. And I think every time I've played it, even then, like Bancroft was standing over our game and was like, Janemba? and was like, what is that card? Yeah, there he is.
I was not expecting to see that. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. But it makes sense. It's a cheap card.
It's a good card, and people sleep on it. Like 20k crit for 1 blue energy is not bad at all.
And then everyone forgets that Trunks ignores crit. Like, because of the way that he's worded, if you reveal the card out of life, you just add it to hand instead of it going to the drop area. So crit wasn't super punishing. I didn't want to waste a negate at this point in the game because I do want to get awakened eventually. So I knew it wasn't going to be a problem going ahead and just letting that attack go through. I knew that I couldn't overextend against you because of your resource pool.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this turn is kind of the tale of how this match goes for me. Anytime that I tried to get something going, you just did this. And like it just killed it. It was like, oh, okay, well, that was pretty much a wasted turn.
Like I said, exactly right there. It's I use Chompabiris as a negate and not so much a offensive card to give a card double strike, which that is very powerful. But I think the defensive mechanics of Chompabiris is much, much more valuable in pretty much any matchup. I don't think I've had a single matchup where I've casted Chompabiris and put double strike on a card.
Yeah.
And it's an especially good negate, air quotes, because it can force your opponent to expend more resources. So if you were to combo on there to try to push that damage through, it's like Chompabiris doesn't matter. You know, your power that you add on with combo, it's just the base power.
Yep.
And Piccolo Jr. is just disgusting. And I essentially spent 3 energy, 1 to cast Chompabiris and then the other 2 to cast Piccolo to burn you 1 damage and draw 2, which if that was just on a 3 job, we would call it the best card in the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's insanely good.
And, you know, if you think about kind of the tools available to blue here, the Trunks counterplay, you know, if I'm using that to stop your arrivals, the way that this deck works, you pretty much just like Sensu Bean on your turn, or, you know, on my attack, you get to restand your energy. You pay 1 to arrival a card out. I Trunks it, it goes back to your hand instead of being played, and then you just tap an energy again to put it back out. So it really neuters a lot of the control aspect of my deck. Really, all I'm making you do is just re-spend energy that you already spend super efficiently.
Which in some cases, there was a lot of times during this matchup where I was like, if he's got Trunks in hand, like this is going to be an issue. Especially turns where I had to tap out or was not able to like Sensu Bean to restand energy.
Right.
You know, if you can force me to spend an energy, even just 1, and get that Trunks out of your hand, it's sometimes good for me, and sometimes it's absolutely devastating.
Yeah, I believe it.
So we kind of missed it when you've done it, but you play the new Goku and Vegeta TP negate. So how did that run in your deck for you?
I love that card. That card performed all night. So you just saw that I used it as a Union Patara target. I could have used it on your Chinimba swing to give my leader 5,000. I chose not to do that because I knew I wanted to try to play this card. And I regret putting the Janimba on the bottom of your deck. I should have put the Beerish Champa on the bottom of your deck and left the Janimba on the field.
Yeah, I think the Janimba is kind of... it usually loses all of its value after it swings the first time at 20 crit. Because at that point, it essentially just becomes a get a negate out of your opponent's hand swing.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to take a 20 crit, and they might, I don't run Further Destruction in the deck, but there's a possibility that I would. Opponent wouldn't know that.
Yep. Because here, like you see, I put the Vegito out, and I had to try to apply pressure to you, but that just resulted in me losing the Vegito. So, but back to the Goku Vegeta comment, it's actually a really good card. I got them while they were still kind of expensive, and I don't really think they were worth that price point. I just wanted them because I knew that I wanted to test this deck specifically. That I wanted to put this together and play it, and I think it's got a real place in stuff like Baby, Vegeta, this SS3 or Vegito in certain builds. So it's definitely not a waste, especially when you consider like we may eventually get a blue Vegito leader that can really utilize those cards. So I think it was worth it for the long term to pick those up, because I feel like that's one of those cards, the longer the game goes and the more options that we get, the better that it will be.
Of course.
And there's nothing wrong with, paying 1 to put out a card that is either going to absorb a battle card attack or give your leader 5,000 for the turn if your opponent ignores its presence.
Yeah.
So it is fully good in that respect.
So you use the new one drop trunks from, or I guess it's not really new anymore, from the expansion, to put 2 cards in your life, and you put 2 of the championship pack trunks out there.
Yeah.
And those were really making me sweat. And also, if you're wondering why I picked the Chompabeerus back up, I used the Hercule Boo's auto to, at the end of the turn, pick up a red or blue battle card from the battle area.
I actually forgot, as Jake says it before, I got tilted because of you like coolering and Hercule booing the Vegito off the field. And then like how aggravating it was, because all night I was playing Arrival and EX Evolve decks that just basically ignore return to hand or send back to hand instead of being played control. So I was kind of tilted because of that, and I actually lose track of the fact that Chompabeerus is in your hand. And like looking at this, just kind of reviewing the plays, like had I been a little less quote unquote tilted, that card would have gone to the bottom of your deck instead of the Janemba, and then it just would have been gone, and I wouldn't have to factor it in anymore.
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of people forget the bottom effect of Hercule Boo. I forget about it a lot of the times because it's a draw 1 that negs 10 for 1 energy, and that's already good enough. Like, the card did not need that extra effect, but the fact that it does and it's optional is fantastic for exactly moments like that where I knew that some cards were going to be leaving my battle area due to those 2 trunks in your life.
Yeah.
So being able to pick that card up and keep it safe in my hand, especially against a blue deck, which you do run pseudo hand control. I guess it is hand control. But to know that it's relatively safe in my hand is a lot more reassuring than having on field most likely tap due to either a swing or skill like Alliance.
I really found out that I really found over the course of this night that a lot of times, just because you have the ability to put something back in your opponent's hand doesn't mean that that's the correct play. Like Cooler is much more manageable as a double strike on the field than he is floating in the hand.
Yeah, like we talked about it the other night that against a deck like Launch, nothing on your field is safe due to Cooler has the ability to neg Ignoring Barrier. I can use a combination of my arrivals to clear pretty much anything in the game except for cards that are indestructible and cannot be removed. And even indestructible can be negged out by Cooler. But that the cards that on my field, when Launch plays a card, that card's value dramatically goes down the longer it's on field.
Yes.
It is most valuable when it's in your hand or being played, is the time when Launch's cards are the most valuable they will ever be.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of it. It's like, I really don't deal damage to you rest of the game due to, you blocking attacks. My cards are not doing anything while they're on field. They're all of my value is coming during the battle step.
Yep. I put the Cooler back in your hand, and it was one of those instances where I wasn't thinking, but I'm just creating more hazardous situations. And that might have been a byproduct of you having the blue hate Vegeta on the field. But I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was just more or less like, okay, I have negates to deal, but I don't want to deal with another double strike. But really all I did was just reload that gun. And I'm big enough to admit that I played this game incorrectly. There were things that I chose incorrectly. I should have been focusing on trying to kill those cards as opposed to just reload them back up. But I was doing what the deck does conveniently instead of doing what I do intelligently.
Like, I think you played it very well for this is your first time playing against Tricolor Launch, and it is much different than any other build of Launch currently.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be able to switch gears so quickly in a matchup like this, where Launch wants to play the game so dramatically different than 99% of the other decks. So, you know, I think you did a very good job during this matchup. Like, you made me sweat pretty much ever since you put those 2 Trunks in your life. Like, I was sweating. I was like, if I deal damage, I'm not going to be able to deal any more damage after that, because those Trunks are going to be the massive issue.
Yep.
And so it forced me to play in a very odd way.
Yeah.
Which was actually kind of exciting, because the entire night I was just playing Launch, just going through the motions and not really having any issues.
Not really thinking it through, or having to think it through. And we talked a lot kind of after you were there when I did my deck profile, and we did the deck profile retroactively after this tournament. So so we played Saturday, and then we did the deck profile Sunday. But I'd go through the deck profile, and I was like, man, something felt off about the Trunks list. And you were like, yeah, it seems really good, but something is off. So we folded it out, and I kind of told you the things that I was thinking, the things that I wanted to put in. And subsequently, we've changed it. I think we changed 5 cards or something like that. But we went deeper in on the Soaring Blow Vegito, and then we ended up adding Sensu Beans in. And one of the reasons that I added Sensu Beans was because in this turn, I wanted to be able to Sensu Bean so bad.
So I'm sorry to cut you off of that idea, but this turn right here was really weird. And going back to the thing where you forced me to play differently, I was having to play very different right here. And you were nice enough to let me take back that 3rd cooler, because I misjudged how much I needed to get to kill the Vegito. I could have straight up cleared your entire board that turn, but I chose not to, and you'll see why in, I think it's 1 or 2 more turns after this.
It might actually be the next turn.
It might be. I don't exactly remember. But I do want to say that Vegito is nasty.
Absolutely.
On entry and swing, your opponent bottom decks 2 cards. And in a deck, in a matchup where you weren't facing Launch, who has 17 cards in their hand on a normal day, like, that is disgusting. Like, I don't even know where to begin on that card.
Yep. I love that card, and I think you get rid of it this turn. And I wish I had been able to keep it around. Oh yeah, okay, so I do baby hatch you. So I overextend in the wrong kind of way in this next turn. And you'll kind of see, and it just bites me in the ass.
And you know, you baby hatch, so it gives me a chance to start using my energy on my turn. And, you know, it's only to draw a single card, but normally I wouldn't expend that energy, because I would want to use that to be able to spend it on an arrival or a combo piece, negates, or whatever. So getting baby hatched and not being able to enter the battle step with Launch is kind of devastating. Because I was going for kill on that turn. If I could get past those 2 Trunkses in your life, which I was still sweating about at this point.
I was still, so I made the comment that I overextended this turn, and I just got that wrong because I forgot how long this game went. I did feel compelled to play out the baby here. I think I had a baby unison in hand. I really should have probably just replayed out Menace Baby, got my draws, and then let that Violent Ray stick, and then let me end with 3 open energy. I think that would have worked out better for me in the long run, as opposed to baiting out the Violent Ray or whatever, because now I'm sitting in a position where I've only got 1 open energy to go through the next turn. there's counter hate on the field. And I think I have, at one point, like, you put that out, and I remember looking at Bancroft and, like, just kind of mouthing to myself, I have 4 fucking Dimension Magics in hand.
Yeah, you told me that after the game, and I was like, that's fucking disgusting. Like,
yeah. And, like, blue is not something, like, I'm the only real blue player at the shop really anymore. And I know, like, Nick's been playing a little bit. You played a little bit when Baby first came out. But I've been the only one playing blue.
mm-hmm.
So you put out Kai of Time here. And I was like, okay, I just lost my field. Like, I'm going to lose my entire field here. And there's nothing that I can do, so I have to push now. And of course, it's like negate, negate, negate. And then here, I swing with Trunks. You don't negate. And this is my opportunity. I'm like, okay, if I don't, I have to either out combo here or I lose my entire field and I lose the game anyway. So I comboed up high, and then I swear to God, I lost. I had an aneurysm when that Champa Beerus hit the field. I was like, yep, okay, I just lost. It's done.
Like, dude, Champa Beerus is just too good. Like, being able to let your opponent overextend and then just pay 1 energy to say nah, like, it's disgusting. So right here, it's going to make a lot more sense why I left that Vegito alive.
So idiotic. I ran right into this. Like,
so I swung double strike at your lead. I let you play the 2 Trunks, and at this point, I'm like, well, those Trunks that I've been sweating about the entire game has just won me the game.
Yep.
Because if you don't know what that 5-drop Frieza does, when he swings, he's triple strike, he negs the entire field, 30k ignoring barrier, and then your opponent mills 2 for every card negged.
Yep.
I like how Fluff, like, I'm going to negate, and you're like, wait, hang on, let me reread that card.
Yeah.
And putting those 2 Trunks on field gave me the exact number of cards I needed to mill you out that turn.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what are you going to say, Bancroft?
I would say, mentioning Fluff earlier, how you said playing the Baby kind of messed you up because you had 2 other unisons in your hand. If you could have established those unisons, kept the counterplays, you had the Dimension Magics, you could have potentially held off a little bit longer. I don't know in result what else Jimmy had in his hand, or if that would have changed what Jimmy would have played. You know, like would he still had the Supreme Kai of Time? You know, he could have played eventually.
Yeah. So probably what I would have done if he was able to establish another unison, I still had, or I don't remember if I still had the blue hate on the field at that point. I know I had 1 in hand that I would have put.
You did, because I sent it back with the Trunks.
That one, does that one ignore barrier? Is that one let me pick it back up? Because I know I had 1 in hand at the end of the game. I would have played the blue hate pretty much, then started swinging all of my double strike battle cards into the unison to try to get rid of the Trunks counter. I would still have to worry about Baby Ape, but getting a Baby Ape out of your hand on my turn is a lot more valuable than getting it out of the hand on your turn, since I don't have to burn a negate for it.
Yeah, I would have tried. I would have probably, thinking clearly about it, I would have probably left the Baby Unison at 7 markers. I would have probably just did a +1, got an extra draw, done what I could. I would have, I'd have lost my turn, but I would have kept all my counterplays in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have to deal with the blue hate, but if I sacrifice 1 energy and 1 life with the Dimension Magic, that opens up the ability for me to use like 2 or 3 negates, because I think I had a couple of the Trunks in there, had a couple other cards that I could have used combo with. I think I do still die potentially, but I have at least, I wouldn't have been milled out. You'd have been forced to kill me through battle phase.
Yeah, which would have been much more difficult than milling you out there.
Yeah.
So with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Jimmy, last words.
I called heaven. I don't know. something about Cowboys. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if they're gonna let me in.
I'm sorry, Fluff.
I don't know that I have anything like witty to say. I'm sleepy. Read your cards, know your plays. Like always, counterplay Trunks isn't broken because our rival decks hate it. Fluff out.